I love Jason. I disagree firmly because I think we've lost our minds.
This isn't me saying this.
And I'll say it to him to his face, and I've told him on the phone, and I'll tell him on the air again.
I'm not an NFL. I've never claimed to be an NFL coach.
I don't want to step in it, but I firmly disagree with Jason last week. I'm like, you want him cut. Why do you want him cut?
Ken Carman is going straight at Jason Lloyd, and this situation has blown up into one of the most intense arguments Cleveland sports media has seen in a while. Carman is not pulling punches when it comes to Lloyd and his recent comments about Shedeur Sanders, especially the moment where Lloyd openly suggested the Browns should cut him. That comment lit a match, and now the whole scene feels tense and uncomfortable.
You want him cut because you're tired of seeing people say nasty things to you on the internet? Do you want him cut because it's hard to cover him? Do you want him cut because when you say you don't think he's a good quarterback, he's got a big fan base and they go after you for it? Is that why you want him cut? Because wanting a guy cut from a team is a very strong thing.
This is not some light back and forth or friendly disagreement between two media voices. This turned into a serious confrontation that has Browns fans arguing nonstop. Carman made it very clear that Jason Lloyd crossed a line. Calling for a player to be cut is not a small opinion. That is a heavy statement that carries weight.
Some of the stuff I read over the weekend, I thought it was insane. Insane. I told you guys a million times.
And Carman made sure everyone understood that. When you say a team should cut a player, you are basically saying that player brings zero value to the organization. You are saying they are not worth developing, not worth patience, and not worth a roster spot. Carman broke down why that mindset is dangerous, especially when it is delivered so casually on a platform with influence. You could hear the frustration in his tone as he explained why Lloyd's approach felt reckless and unfair.
Don't do anything for that. If you want him cut from the team, it should be because he's a detriment to the actual team. Now, I don't know all the story. Maybe we'll find out that he's a terrible teammate. I don't think we will. But if you found out a guy was a terrible teammate and not that good, that's a reason to cut the guy. Just because we're bickering amongst each other about a quarterback doesn't mean the guy should be cut.
Now, the Jason Lloyd situation is snowballing fast. Other media members, fans, and analysts are calling him out, and the spotlight is getting brighter by the day. This did not just pop up randomly, though. There's a clear starting point that pushed this whole thing forward. It all traces back to Jason Lloyd, declaring that Shedeur Sanders is not the solution at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Lloyd was not cautious or reserved with his take. He sounded fully locked in on the idea that Sanders would fail, and the way he delivered that message rubbed people the wrong way.
He doesn't make tight window throws. He doesn't throw guys open. This is not the answer.
Fans noticed the tone immediately. What Lloyd said did not come off as balanced analysis or constructive criticism. To many, it felt personal, and Browns fans reacted to that energy right away. This is where things really start to get interesting, and the timing matters a lot. It was still mid-season, and after one rough outing from Shedeur Sanders, Jason Lloyd wasted no time jumping in with his take. Instead of waiting for a larger sample size, Lloyd treated that one shaky game like proof.
He still doesn't know what he's looking at. He still doesn't flip protections. He doesn't know when he's hot. This isn't me saying this. I'm not an NFL. I've never claimed to be an NFL coach. This is people in that building will tell me he still doesn't know how to flip protections. He doesn't know when he's hot. He doesn't.
Guy. But then something happened that Lloyd likely did not see coming. Shedeur Sanders responded in a big way. He went out and delivered a dominant performance that flipped the whole conversation. He played sharp, confident football and showed exactly why so many people believed in his upside in the first place. The criticism got real quiet after that. And for someone who had been so loud and so firm in his stance, that moment had to hit hard. You would think that getting proven wrong that clearly might lead to some reflection. Maybe a little acknowledgement that the original take went too far, or that the evaluation was rushed. That never came. Instead, once the season wrapped up, Jason Lloyd went right back to throwing shots at Shedeur Sanders, and this is where Ken Carman and others really zeroed in. The criticism was no longer about performance. Sanders actually handled his opportunities well. He showed growth, toughness, and the ability to compete when his number was called. The stats supported that, and anyone watching without bias could see real development happening. This was not a quarterback falling apart on the field. So the question became obvious. If it was not about the play, what exactly was Lloyd upset about? That is when things took a strange turn. Lloyd started nitpicking things like Sanders' positioning on throws and even his posture. Not footwork, not reads, posture. Let that sink in. A quarterback getting dragged for how he carries himself. At that point, the analysis felt less like football talk and more like searching for reasons to stay negative. To many fans and media members, it looked like Lloyd was locked into a conclusion and willing to stretch for anything to support it, even if it meant going after a young quarterback who was just trying to carve out his place in the league. The backlash toward Jason Lloyd has been heavy, and the Browns fan base has not been quiet about it. Social media turned into a pressure cooker almost instantly. Fans went straight at Lloyd for the way he called out Shedeur Sanders, accusing him of bias and unfair treatment. To many people watching this unfold, it felt like Sanders was being singled out for no real reason. Browns fans are wired differently when it comes to their players. When they believe someone is being treated unfairly, they respond fast and they respond loud. That energy has been nonstop, and Ken Carman has clearly been watching everything closely. After seeing the reaction, Carman started connecting dots and questioning what is really pushing Jason Lloyd to go this far. Carman explained that Lloyd's call for the team to cut Shedeur did not come out of nowhere. According to Carman, every time Lloyd criticizes Sanders, the fan base jumps on him immediately. That pushback frustrates Lloyd, and instead of easing up, he escalates. Lloyd throws out a harsher take, fans fire back even harder, and the cycle keeps spinning. Carman also pointed out another uncomfortable layer to the situation. He said that Lloyd simply does not like Shedeur Sanders on a personal level, and that matters. When personal feelings mix with professional analysis, things can get messy fast. That admission changed how many people viewed the entire situation because it suggested this was no longer just about football. This is the moment where Ken Carman really locked in his argument, and it cut straight to the core of the issue with Jason Lloyd. Carman made it clear that personal dislike and fan backlash do not justify calling for a player to be removed from the team. Getting annoyed by pushback from Shedeur Sanders supporters does not suddenly give a media member the right to demand roster changes. Carman framed it in a way that hit hard. These are not Jason Lloyd's Browns. This team does not belong to a columnist or a radio personality. This is Cleveland's team. It belongs to the city and the fans who live and breathe every win and loss. Lloyd covers the Browns, but he does not run them. He does not make personnel calls, and he does not get to decide who stays and who goes. Carman then laid out what the standard actually should be. The only real reason to call for a player to be cut is if that player is a problem inside the building. If a quarterback is poisoning the locker room, causing drama, refusing to work, or dividing teammates, then that is a serious conversation. Those are football reasons. Those are team reasons. But that description does not fit Shedeur Sanders at all. Everyone around the league who has spoken about him says the same thing. He works hard. He shows up prepared. He respects his teammates, and his teammates respect him right back. There is no noise about locker room issues, no whispers about selfish behavior, no signs of disruption. So when you step back and look at it honestly, the logic starts to fall apart. If Sanders is not a bad teammate, if he has performed reasonably well when given chances, and if he has shown clear potential to grow into a solid NFL quarterback, then what is the argument for cutting him? That question is exactly why Carman pressed Lloyd. Strip away the frustration, the ego, and the fan backlash, and there is not much left. What Carman is really calling out is the moment where emotion takes over and replaces fair, objective football analysis. Ken Carman did not dance around it at all. He flat out said that Jason Lloyd crossed a serious line. This was not framed as a simple disagreement over talent or upside. Carman made it clear that Lloyd's comments went beyond normal sports debate and landed in a place that felt inappropriate and unprofessional. When someone as established as Carman calls out a colleague this directly, people pay attention. And it matters because this was not a casual critique. Carman made it clear that Lloyd's behavior had reached a point where it could not just be brushed off as hot takes or media noise. In his view, the situation had gotten so bad that it demanded a public response. Carman even went as far as saying that Lloyd's hatred toward Shedeur Sanders had completely clouded his judgment, and that statement carried real weight. What Carman was really saying is that Lloyd allowed personal feelings to take over his analysis. Instead of breaking things down with logic and balance, Lloyd let frustration and dislike drive his commentary. According to Carman, that is how you end up making statements that do not line up with football reality. Statements that do not help fans understand the team and do not add anything productive to the conversation around the Browns. This situation also opened up a bigger discussion about sports media as a whole. Where is the line between fair criticism and unfair targeting? At what point does analysis stop being about performance and start feeling personal? How much should a media member's emotions factor into the way they cover a player? And what responsibility do they have to the audience that trusts them? Carman's argument is that Jason Lloyd failed on all of those levels. He believes Lloyd let bias override professionalism, and that calling for the Browns to cut Shedeur Sanders was the clearest proof of that breakdown. For Browns fans, this is about more than one argument between two media figures. It reflects how their team is discussed, how their players are treated, and whose voices are shaping the narrative. Fans have made their stance clear. Many of them are siding with Ken Carman, believing that Jason Lloyd went too far and deserved to be called out publicly for it. What makes this situation even bigger is how openly divided the media space has become. This is no longer just Ken Carman versus Jason Lloyd. Other voices around Cleveland sports have started weighing in, and many of them are quietly siding with Carman's perspective. Some are saying it outright, others are choosing their words carefully, but the shift is noticeable. There is a growing feeling that Lloyd has isolated himself with how far he pushed this take. When multiple media members start questioning your approach, it signals that something went wrong. This is not about silencing criticism or protecting players from accountability. It is about maintaining credibility and fairness, especially when covering a team with such a passionate fan base. People are also pointing out that this type of coverage can have real consequences. Words carry weight when they come from established voices. Calling for a player to be cut does not exist in a vacuum. It affects public perception, fan discourse, and even how a player is viewed inside the organization.
I love Jason. I disagree firmly because I think we've lost our minds.
That responsibility cannot be ignored. Ken Carman's stance resonates with so many because it speaks to that responsibility. Criticism should be rooted in performance, effort, and facts. Once it drifts into personal dislike, the analysis loses its value. That is the concern many people now have with Jason Lloyd's commentary, and it explains why this debate has not cooled down. At the center of all this is Shedeur Sanders, and that part keeps getting overlooked. While media members argue and fans clash online, he is still a young quarterback trying to grow in one of the toughest leagues in sports. Development is rarely smooth and progress is not always loud. Sometimes it shows up in preparation, composure, and steady improvement. That is why so many fans feel protective in this moment. They are not saying Sanders is perfect or beyond criticism. What they are pushing back against is what feels like unfair pressure and extreme rhetoric. They want honest evaluations, not narratives driven by frustration or ego. This is also why Ken Carman's words landed so hard. He reframed the conversation away from hot takes and back toward standards. Standards for analysis, standards for professionalism, standards for how players should be discussed when they are putting in the work and showing growth. Jason Lloyd now finds himself at a crossroads. He can double down again, or he can reassess how he approaches this topic moving forward. The audience is watching closely, and so are his peers. In today's media landscape, credibility is fragile, and once trust starts slipping, it is hard to win back. For Browns fans, this moment feels bigger than one player or one argument. It is about respect, balance, and who truly speaks for the team they care about so deeply. At the end of the day, this entire saga comes down to trust. Trust between media members and their audience. Trust that criticism is coming from an honest place, not from personal frustration or resentment. And trust that players are being evaluated on what actually happens on the field, not on feelings or grudges. That is why this moment matters more than just one argument between Ken Carman and Jason Lloyd. It exposed a deeper tension in sports media. Fans are no longer willing to blindly accept extreme takes just because they come from a loud or established voice. They want accountability, balance, and respect for the people wearing the jersey. Ken Carman stepped into that space and said what many fans were already thinking. You can criticize a player without crossing the line. You can analyze performance without calling for someone's livelihood. And once you let emotion replace objectivity, the message gets lost. Jason Lloyd's comments did more than spark debate. They forced a conversation about standards and coverage and who those standards are really meant to serve. The fans noticed, other media members noticed, and this situation is not fading away quietly. If you want to stay locked into stories like this, where media drama, football decisions, and fan reactions collide, Huddle Files is where it all gets broken down without the noise. No sugarcoating, no forced narratives, just the full picture so you can decide where you stand. Because in Cleveland and in football, the conversation never really ends. And you already know, we'll have every second of it broken down, every twist, every leak, every hidden play behind the headlines. So like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share it out. Stay locked in with Huddle Files, where the real NFL stories live.